everyone. Welcome to Whitley Penn Talks, where we give you valuable information to help you make confident, informed decisions and move your business forward. My name is Emily Landry, and today we are talking about how Austin Farm Sanctuary is making lasting impacts on the community of Austin's perception on the relationship between humans and farm animals. I'm excited to be joined by Chris Fuller-Wigg, co-founder of Austin Farm Sanctuary, to bring insight to this topic. Welcome, Chris.
Hey Emily, thanks for having me.
Oh, it's so good to have you. So Chris and I recorded this podcast over a year ago. Couldn't get it to work
It was just
technically.
too good, it broke the internet.
We're
Yeah.
back. We are back to redo the podcast and we're better than ever now. So I'm going to have you start by talking about your background and what brought you and your wife to start a nonprofit.
So my wife Angela and I first kind of stumbled upon this life. We were buying our first home together in September of 2016. We found out about two goats that were in need, Bertha and Cookie. They were going to be killed if we didn't intervene, and we happened to get this phone call, so we stepped up and turned our little half-acre backyard into a dog and goat backyard. That then led to us getting a call about a pig, and we kind of had just this awareness that there were these animals beyond dogs and cats that could be saved, that we now with this bigger backyard had an opportunity to help. And so that kind of launched us fully into this mission of specifically focusing on rescuing farm animals and kind of finding that passion and like a purpose left unfulfilled.
I love it. It's such a fun purpose and the beautiful cows in the background for you today too.
Yeah.
So for people just being introduced to the organization, you began in 2016. So can you share the mission and history of the organization for us?
Yeah, for sure. So our mission is to rescue and rehabilitate farm animals and provide them a forever home in our care. And then at the same time, advocating for these types of individuals on like a larger stage and sharing their stories, the story of Pax rescued from the dairy industry, or Doya from FFA, or, Buddy who was born blind at a farm. So telling these individual stories is really what we found kind of some value in, if you will, as an organization kind of early on in 2016. So it was in wanting to share that with our community that we then kind of broadened out and really started working on, having ambassador residents like Buddy that you're very familiar with at the sanctuary, and making sure that we could platform these typically unseen but very special animals.
So I joke, like you've heard me talk before we started recording about Buddy, who I have here. And you also did a calendar one year, and or at least one year I have with some of the residents, and it was a huge hit in the Fort Worth office where I sit. Everyone wanted to know about the animals, wanted to know what was going on at Austin Farm Sanctuary. And if you haven't, we're going to plug it later going to your website, but you'll have one of the most beautiful, if not the most beautiful websites I've ever seen. So it's just a great, very visual, fun place to learn more about your residents, as you call them, and the fun creatures that you've gotten to work with over the years.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, our website's special because it does get to showcase all of the residents and individuals here and really give them their own spot, kind of their own bio and their stories. So not this collection of cows or collection of pigs or flock of chickens like we think of them. There's these individuals you get to scroll through and see Tink and Wally and Milkshake and Root Beer and Angel, and kind of learn about some of them. So yeah, I encourage people to hop on over as well and get to know an animal and then come meet them.
Yes. So you've rescued animals from all over the country. Is there any particular rescue story or resident that's left an impact on you?
Hmm. Um, Man, so Doya is the very first pig we rescued, and he's a pretty obvious choice for this. But since you mentioned across the country, there's two pretty significant rescues that we've done on both the coasts. So we rescued multiple times. We rescued from a religious mass sacrifice that happens in New York every year, where we saved actually with along with a couple of organizations 200 chicks from that situation and brought them all the way to Texas. And we rescued 30 of the individuals from that. And so that was a really big move of getting hundreds of chickens rescued from this mass sacrifice in the streets of New York and then brought all the way to Texas and dropped off along the way at sanctuaries. And there's a really tight knit community of sanctuaries, so we're able to help orchestrate with this group, 12 different drop off locations when they came to us. And so that was nice because not only get these animals out of harm kind of en masse, but also it showed like how we people who care for these specific types of animals can like work together to like create a network to help them in, a large quantity. And then more recently, there's a group of water buffalo that we rescued from Northern California, and they've kind of taken like the internet by storm. There's a pinned reel we have on our Instagram about them all kind of finding or being alone and then finding each other, and they're a pretty fun story. But they were rescued from the dairy industry in Northern California, and in two separate rescue missions, 3 months apart, brought all the way here, and now are loving our acre pond and their 12 acres of grazing, just exploring the sanctuary as free water buffalo.
I love it. Did you think you would ever rescue buffalo?
Uh, yeah, that was not on the bingo card until the day I got the phone call about, hey, there's a water buffalo in rescue, and then it was like the possibility became there. Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
They're pretty amazing to see, honestly. They're so big and so like just majestic and powerful looking. They're pretty incredible.
Oh, man.
I was gonna go with that as the background, but I found these ones of my girls, my old lady cows here. So
So, what are some of the biggest challenges you've faced in running the sanctuary, and how have you overcome them? Obviously, moving buffalo is probably not the easiest thing to do.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I guess it's twofold. So one, I mean, the hardest thing for most nonprofits is being able to like fundraise to like grow and expand like the impact of your mission. Like it was fantastic 8 years ago, but our half acre establishment is much different than our 250 residents with five staff and 95 acres. So trying to be able to find ways to like scale that has been probably the most like overwhelming because it has so much risk as we take on these lives that if our mission fails and our fundraising fails, then we have lives to care for. So that's like hurdle number one. We've luckily found a good community of people that have allowed for this to happen, and so like that's going well. And then the second item that I would mention, that's specifically in farm animal rescue, is like a roadblock we have to overcome is that there's not really much referenceable material for super quality care for farmed animals. We're trying to let them live to be 30 years old or a blind calf to survive kind of his first couple of years of life. And so there's a lot of like pushing the envelope, and we work closely with Texas A&M and their veterinary team to like learn more about farmed animals so we can provide dog and cat level care, but to animals that we care about just as much. And so that's been the learning curve of going from, 15 residents to 250, but needing to know all the nuances about them and kind of leading the charge on actually having the awareness of what do they need to be healthy and happy. So, yeah.
It's interesting you mentioned the partnership with Texas A&M. Have you gotten to know several people on staff at A&M as a result of the work you're doing?
But yeah, I mean, their veterinary team and me definitely have each other saved in like our phone books. And there's in some spurts, like for the last like 3 months, we had a lot of medical rescues or emergency medical things or something happened. And so we have a resident on average in there every week, whether they're there for just a day and a visit or they're there for some sort of 5 to 10 day long like cancer treatment. And so we're working pretty closely with their team. Like for example, we do have multiple pigs that have skin cancer, and so they're going through chemotherapy and going there and visit, but there's not a whole lot of people investing in skin chemotherapy for their pigs. And so that actually is helping to like grow the patient exposures that these students that are in the veterinary school that are at the veterinary clinic to do as well. And so it's kind of our part to like also just extend the care for not just our 250 residents, but animals everywhere to be able to be seen a little bit more.
That's really cool.
It's
A&M has
been pretty
been
rewarding.
really helpful, I feel like, in advancing animal care around the United States, but it's neat to get to see them work with you guys on this particular endeavor with these residents.
Yeah. Yeah, like Wally broke his femur 2 years ago, a 700-pound pig broke his back right femur. Nobody's ever fixed a pig's femur before, but they did a procedure that they've done in large dogs and horses before and repaired his femur, and Wally, 2.5 years later, is living his best life with all of his friends out in the 12-acre Piglandia. So yeah, it's
Oh,
been cool.
that's really cool. So what, well, I would say like, I would think there's a lot of emotional weight to managing a rescue and also needing to educate people about what's going on and advocating, but not overwhelming. So how do you approach the need to inspire change and manage that?
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question. To be most impactful in our mission, what I've found is allowing for people to gain clarity on the individuality of these animals. Like, this is something that when we took in Bertha and Cookie, I never really considered goats. I loved animals, but I hadn't really considered goats until I knew too deeply. And then I met Doya, and he was the pig. He's the pig that's on our shirts. He started kind of the sanctuary because he was that pivot point, because there was this like titular character that I was like, wow, he's just so deep and complex. And so to be able to inspire change, what we hope to do is create connection. So we invite people to come out to the sanctuary or do a tour, go to our social media where we're telling stories about this almost happened to this pig or this chicken, or this did happen to this cow, but they got into this situation and now this is what life looks like. So if we can kind of juxtapose the plight of these billions and trillions that we don't ever really know about or see by bringing attention to the ones that escape that fate, then hopefully we can allow for, again, not me to inspire, but Pax and Knox and Doya and Willie and Wally to inspire. So, like, people ask questions when they come on tours, and I'm very mindful about telling the stories of the residents, not the story of me and where I got to where I am, but the story of the residents. And so, hopefully, people can then connect with an individual and then allow
Mhm.
for their journey and the value that they place on these animals to start to kind of maybe connect a little bit more than it did previously.
I think too, like it's so much easier to relate to the plight of like what's happening to someone's dog because you've probably had a dog growing up. But
Mm-hmm.
like you said, like it's harder to wrap your mind around what's happening to a goat because you maybe haven't grown up around a goat. But
100%.
once you get to go to the sanctuary, you get to be around the animals and or you follow you guys on social media, which we do, and we love the stories and get to see what's happening with the creatures at the sanctuary. Like get to see like they really do truly have personalities. Just like my dog has a very big personality, so does so many of the creatures that you've got like have these unique capabilities and like pieces of who they are. And
Mm-hmm.
goats are not all the same. They might have similar characteristics, but you need to fall in love with one to fall in love with saving them, I
I
think.
love that. Yep.
So
100%.
super cool. I've even told you, Chris, my dog is obsessed with cows. We don't know why exactly she's obsessed with cows, but we will leave YouTube on like all day long for her to watch. We call them moo her to watch the moo cows all day. And she'll just sit there and like while we're leaving, like just be glued in. And to her, they're so fascinating. And I think that's so like amazing that she can see them. And I don't know if she thinks they're gigantic dogs or she thinks that they're cows, but she's crazy about them. And it's made us crazy about learning more about cows
Oh,
too,
that's
like
cool.
trying to like learn more. And so it's been fun to go onto your page and see what's happening with some of the cows on your site. But
Oh,
uh
thank you. I was checking baby Valentino last weekend, a
oh,
blind calf born at a local ranch. And so he is living large and in the medical barn, about to move in with the rest of the blind cow population. So
it's so cute.
he's really sweet.
I love it. So let's talk about some of the challenges facing animal-focused nonprofits. Is there anything in particular you think is really big or really difficult that you're facing that maybe people aren't aware of?
Well, I think for us, specifically as a farm animal rescue nonprofit, like we don't get government funding or anything, like no city shelters. We kind of receive a lot of the quote unquote burden of, pigs or roosters or whatever that are dumped at these places and come here, but we don't receive funding, state or federal. So we get that question a lot. So I think kind of just centering around like all of our success in fundraising is really built off of kind of working with the community very closely because it's not coming from any other sources. But then otherwise, I mean, when it comes to being an animal nonprofit, it's tough because it can almost feel never ending, like the journey to like have it so that there's no stray dogs dumped in, the valley or something that we're like rescuing from. Like that's a pretty tough hurdle to really see an end at. So I think that it then becomes, in a way, hard to fundraise because you feel like you continue to fundraise for rescue efforts, and it's just we're kind of the end and like the achieving of this mission. But then I think that we can get grounded in like that every individual is worth it. So what if it's like, this dog and then this dog versus this rescue? It's like just the specific individual. In our case, cow, chicken, goat, water buffalo, what have you. But I think that is hard, mostly on the organization to fundraise because you feel like you're just asking for the kind of same thing that almost feels like it is just always rotating. So I think that's sometimes one of the hardships of fundraising for an animal-based nonprofit.
I think, and this wasn't my question, but something I'd say is hard for you guys too is a lot of nonprofits have been able to pivot away from a physical location and
Hmm.
physical expenses for maintaining property as we've sort
Wow.
of moved to more remote based work. You can't do that if you have
Yeah.
250 creatures to care for and residents on the property. You have to have a lot of space for
Yeah.
buffalo and cows and chickens and pigs to do their thing. So,
Yeah, and we can't really abide by like an adoption or like boarding model. Like some shelters could even move to that, but
right.
like yeah, there's nobody who's short term taking in a longhorn in their backyard while we figure out long term housing. So it's a very good point.
I think too, like with it, it's gonna be, I mean, obviously you guys have been blessed to get the 95 acres that you're on, but if the need continues to grow, you may need more land in an area in Texas that is not getting less expensive to live in either.
Yeah.
So I think it's another interesting challenge you guys will maybe have ahead of you is if your mission sort of continues to grow and expand and you get more and more creatures to come be
Hmm.
residents, what do you do?
Yeah.
How do you keep expanding and how do you make that work worthwhile for everyone without strapping yourselves to distance or anything like that? That's going to be an interesting path versus a lot of
No
other
doubt.
nonprofits don't have to face that particular battle. So,
Yeah, yeah, we're lucky that when we chose this place, we tried to find it in an area where there was a lot of adjacent land that's currently either used for cow pastures or just forest. And so our hope is that there's 40 here, another 40 there, another 90 there that maybe we'd be able to figure out over the coming years or decades or whatever. But
sure.
absolutely that will become and already kind of has become a little bit of a restriction,
Outgrow
because
the space. Hmm.
yeah. Yeah, and we would never want to impact the beauty of the space or the like quality of life like for the residents. Like our goal is to showcase a beautiful life as what Sanctuary is. It's not just living.
Yeah. So, if you were to dream big and think about something for the sanctuary to accomplish in the next 5 years, what is a really big dream for you? Is it a particular animal you'd love to see, or is it,
We got to
you
get on
know,
these like Jurassic World reboots, get a baby T-Rex or something out here. We'd probably look for a Brontosaurus. We need some leaf eaters. We have way too many things for a T-Rex to kind of try to obliterate. Um, But yeah, for the next 5 years, I mean, so there is components of like that scaling in size and things like that that would be cool. What I'd like to be more focused on is 5 years of, if we talk about we can rescue 250 animals or 1,000, depending, like our goal is to rescue millions or billions, save them all, as it were. And so what I'd like to see develop a lot in our next 5 years is like our programming for education, whether that's
Mm.
like having more of a focus on our social media and really telling the stories of like, did you know that chickens don't typically lay 3 eggs in a week? And here's their story, like just some bits of information that kind of do that. We also run programs like education programs like Leap at the school at the sanctuary, and we want to open up like a preschool kind of daycare type thing. Selfishly, I have a 2.5-year-old, and so if I can find a way to get him taught at the sanctuary across the road, but so in the next 5 years, it'd be great to see some things adapt there so that our impact can be to elevate the residents we have here stories, but
Mhm.
inevitably save, more than what we would ever, whoever would be able to get our hands on, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think too, like, I see how it would be helpful for you to have more sanctuaries throughout the United States. Like you talked about in the beginning, moving the chickens from the East Coast down,
Mm-hmm.
and how you had this sort of network of sanctuaries, but you almost want to have those preschoolers who then want to grow up and start their own sanctuary and help you in a totally different part of the United States,
Mm-hmm.
saving some of the animals.
Yeah, and a part of our education is three pillars. It's one, it's educating just the general population and youth. Two is like educating veterinarians. So that's kind of the program we have at Texas A&M. And then the third one is educating other sanctuaries. So like we're grateful that we've been able to be whatever it means to be quote unquote successful. And there's like we want to make sure we enable with people with the information we've learned, whether it's documentation setup or like how to properly market your brand or something. So working with places to allow them to be successful because it's tough. Animal rescues or sanctuaries find themselves failing X percentage of the time because it's well-meaning, kind-doing people that find themselves overextended. So how can we help that not be the result and instead guide them?
It's a struggle so many nonprofits face, but you probably face in a very unique and challenging way because, like you said earlier, you have lives depending on you
Yeah.
in a very
And when you get that
different
phone
way.
call, you want to say yes because you feel like you're already you know about them. You can't say no, but then you're overextended and then the money doesn't come in and then you find yourself way over your toes and now it's not a safe space for them to be in and yeah, never want to be in that position and it's hard not to get there almost.
So, before we finish the episode, I want you to tell us how we can connect with you and the sanctuary. I would say I'm hoping my husband and I are going to get to come do the tour in the next couple of months, which would be like September-ish time frame. It'll probably be 110
I was
degrees,
gonna say
whatever day
nice
we.
and toasty.
Yeah. But besides the tour, which you've mentioned, and I think would be like such a remarkable, tangible way to get to see the property, what other ways would you suggest connecting with y'all?
Yeah, I would say the tour plus we also have an Airstream that people can now rent out at the sanctuary. So head on over to our stay option on our website, and that's pretty fun. We had a friend that stayed here for like 5 days and like videoed their whole experience of a week at the sanctuary. So, um, but otherwise, I would say, I mean, going to our website's great because you'll be if there's any kind of current events we have, like we try to host events. We have a summer kickoff this coming weekend where we'll have like a vegan barbecue and water slides and tours and bobbing for apples, but the pigs are doing it. All just fun ways to kind of take some holidays. So people coming out for either tours or events. But yeah, connecting with us on social media. Again, we try to use that as a platform to tell the stories of our 250 residents. So go and kind of get your daily, happy juice of a little bit of happy farmed animals over there. And then to support us, we have various like fundraisers throughout the year. We have a big solar panel initiative to like get some fans moving in our barns during the summer, as well as other things we do throughout the year. So we'd love people to jump on and support some key missions like that too.
Love it. Okay, well, for those listening, if you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or listen on our website at whitleypenn.com/podcast. Thank you, Chris, for joining me again to record the podcast. I think we did better the second time, though, so
Nailed it.
better, better storytelling. And I hope everyone has a wonderful rest of your day.